Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a clip that has been going viral on social media that happened just in the last few days between former Vice President and now 2024 Republican presidential candidate Mike Pence and Tucker Carlson on stage. Basically, Tucker Carlson was interviewing Republican presidential candidates, I believe, because I saw clips of him talking to a few other people like Vivek and whatnot. But Mike Pence has been getting slammed online for a clip that just got taken from this entire conversation, right, between him and Tucker Carlson, in which he quite literally says that the issues that, Tucker Carlson's going to state in America are quote-unquote not his concern. So keep in mind, this man was the Vice President of the United States during the Donald Trump administration. He is now running for president next year as a Republican. He's trying to actually step up into that spot, right? And obviously saying that Americans are, quote, not your concern, that's a pretty big oopsie daisy on the campaign trail, right? So people have been just tearing him apart, and he's tried to respond to it. He put up a little tweet, and out of sake of fairness, I guess, right, I decided that I would use the clip that Mike Pence tweeted out because he claims that this clip holds such important context that explains what he said. Now, I think it's just important that people know what the presidential candidates in this country actually believe in what they say, because in my opinion, I feel like people vote at like a popularity contest, right? Like whichever presidential candidate says the funniest or coolest things, whoever has the nastiest one-liners, whoever makes the biggest promises, that's the one that everyone wants to vote for, right? That's the only thing that American voters ever really look towards. Like, what are they promising that they can't fulfill? And how are they trying to appeal to me as a person with no regard for my life or safety or prosperity, right? So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip and we're going to talk about this. It's about a minute and 45-second long clip, so please bear with me here though. I do want to say before we get into the clip, it's very rare that I find myself agreeing with Tucker Carlson. I know a lot of people like him, I know a lot of people watch him. I'm not the biggest fan of Tucker Carlson. I don't really watch very many, if any, political commentators. Doesn't really matter who they are or what they say. So I'm not like this big Tucker Carlson fan, but I found myself somewhat agreeing with what he said here. And like I said, that's kind of rare for me because usually when I hear Tucker Carlson, I'm not really on board with a lot of what he says, but this definitely makes some sense. So go ahead and take a look at the clip.
I know you're running for president. You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet, your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. I think Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. And as President of the United States, we're going to restore law and order in our cities. We're going to secure our border. We're going to get this economy moving again. And we're going to make sure that we have men and women on our courts at every level that will stand for the right to life and defend all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution. Anybody that says that we can't be the leader of the free world and solve our problems at home has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth. We can do both. And as President of the United States, we will secure our border, we will support our military, we will revive our economy and stand by our values, and we will also lead the world for freedom under my administration. I promise you.
Amen. Vice President Mike Pence, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tucker.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so there's a decent amount to break down here. So before we even get any further into it, right? Tucker Carlson is quite critical of the funding and military support for Ukraine and their ongoing war against Russia. A lot of Americans, primarily people that, identify as on the right or as Republican, they really don't support military funding going to Ukraine. They don't support us, putting our equipment there and whatnot, right? Because the way they see it, we could be using that money and we could be using all of that stuff here at home to fix the problems that we have here. And that's basically what Tucker is saying, right? We're sending all these billions of dollars to Ukraine and giving them all of this military equipment, but there's millions of Americans starving, right? There's millions of homeless Americans. Crime and poverty has been increasing. Inflation's been increasing. The average American is doing worse over the last few years, right? And instead of dealing with these issues at home that people are dealing with, his point is we're sending all this money to Ukraine. Now, I feel like there is some important context to add here. First and foremost, a good portion of the military equipment that's being sent to Ukraine is actually outdated U.S. military equipment that we've already replaced with better equipment. Now, this isn't all of it. There is some pretty high-tech, pretty new, relatively newer and more expensive equipment being sent to the front lines as well. We've been sending Bradleys and whatnot, high-tech tanks, everything like that, HIMARS, whatnot. But a good portion of what we're sending is old stuff that we've already been replacing, and it's basically just us making room for new shit. And on top of that, it's basically a revival of the Lend-Lease Act, meaning that at the end of all of this, right, Ukraine and Europe in general are going to have to eventually pay all this shit back to us plus interest. At least that's the idea. You know how that usually ends up working in principle, right? Me personally, I do support the US sending military funding and equipment to Ukraine simply because our military budget is already stupidly overinflated. And that's something that you never really see people call out in and of itself, right? You never see people say anything about the military budget, right? You hear people bring up all these issues happening in America, but then when there's actual solutions on the table, we just increase the military budget regardless, right? So I both agree and disagree with Tucker on that. I mean, life for the average American is not better than it was 5 years ago, by a long shot. All the people I know in real life, all the people who are trying to, make ends meet, trying to raise their families and whatnot, they're getting completely smacked, financially by the higher inflation over the last few years, rising cost of goods, rising cost of living. Americans are not getting what we deserve out of our tax dollars in general. Our roads are full of potholes. Our infrastructure is collapsing. Our society is rapidly developing this two-party system that basically identifies which side you're on and creates division and sows division between everybody to the point where neighbors fucking hate each other over political differences. Trust in the government is at all-time lows. Trust in the mainstream media is at all-time lows. Trust in, the fucking food supplies and the water supplies are at all-time lows. And what are any of these political candidates doing to fix that? What are any of them doing to try and address any of these issues? Well, Mike Pence, he gives a lot of non-answers, right? And he ends up saying twice directly that, oh, that's not my concern. Americans are not my concern. So he tried to, go on Twitter and say, oh, this is fake news, all this shit. Here's my full clip of my remarks. The full context doesn't make what he said any better. The idea that Tucker Carlson would say to his face, right? There's no room for misinterpretation. Americans are dealing with all of these issues at home and you're worried about this. And for his response to be, that is not my concern, is extremely telling. And this isn't just a Mike Pence issue. I just want to point that out too. This is an overall government issue in the United States. All of these politicians who make millions of dollars a year, who have spent decades in office in different areas, whether it be state Congress or governor or, in the representatives, whatever it may be, right? These people live a completely different life than you. And so, yeah, for Mike Pence, it isn't really any of his concern if your family is struggling to make ends meet, if you're struggling to feed your children. It doesn't matter to him if you're struggling to get back and forward to work. Those things don't matter to these politicians. And let's just be honest, Mike Pence is just the first one so far out of the presidential candidates to slip up and say what he really meant. Yeah, it is none of his concern. He doesn't give a fuck. Because guess what? He lives in a privileged class of people, okay? These are people who the rules do not apply to. These people commit insider trading on the daily. They reap millions of dollars from lobbyists, from cheating the system, and nothing is ever done about it. They live in a completely different world than you, Mike Pence included. They can sit here and try and level with you and make it out like, oh, I'm a family man, bro. I'm a Christian. I believe in God like you. They can do all that to try and make it out as if like they're just like you and me, but they're not. They're not. And Mike Pence is just once again the first one to accidentally slip up and say it. And he can try and walk this back, that's not what I really meant, but that's exactly what you said. And It wasn't like you were duped into saying that. It wasn't like the question or what was said to you baited you into saying that. It was in my opinion, very valid concern, right? I think it's one that a lot of Americans, regardless of their political ideologies, would probably agree with. And to hear a presidential candidate, someone who wants to become the leader of the free world, say, "That is not my concern," referring to the American people, I will never vote for somebody like that. So he's basically trying to say at the end of the clip where he goes on the same generic spiel that every politician does, that was the context you needed to hear, right? That really explained his little slip up there. It does nothing really to actually address that. It does nothing to even really fix that. All he does is basically say, "Oh yeah, that's not my concern. We can do two things at once. America could be great. We're going to make America safer. We're going to secure the border. We're going to allow you to believe what you want to believe." Like, yeah, every politician says this shit, dude. Every Republican has been saying this shit for decades. It's been almost 10 years now since Trump first came on the scene talking about, we need to build a wall. We need to secure the southern border. And that's been one of the top, points, I guess, for the Republican Party over the last couple of elections now. And, well, where's the progress been? Where's it happened at? Where's the securing been happening? Where's the big wall that stops all the illegal immigrants? Oh, wait, it's not there. We're going to make these streets safer again. Really? You're going to make them safer again? Because violent crime has been on the rise again since 2020. The average American life has been getting worse off for so many people. And this isn't just a Republican issue or a Democrat issue. This is all politicians. They all say the same fucking thing. And people don't seem to realize this. They all say the same exact, 6 things. None of these politicians are prepared to give a legitimate answer. And that's my problem, even right here with Pence, right? He says, "Oh, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this." Okay, well, what's the plan? What plan do you have in store to actually address any of these issues? Oh, we're going to help fight this war in Ukraine at the same time as getting the homeless off the streets and allowing people to believe in God again and upholding the Constitution. Let's just call it for what it is, man. Republicans don't give a fuck about the Constitution. Just as much as Democrats don't care about the Constitution, none of these Republican candidates care about the Constitution. They're all part of the same exact political hierarchy that over the last few decades has been specifically designated to strip more of your constitutional rights year by year. Neither of these political parties or any of their candidates are going to do anything to protect your digital rights and your digital data and safety rights. They're not going to make any sort of new legislation to prevent monitoring and surveillance of the average American. Anything, right? These people don't give a fuck about your constitutional rights. These people don't care about once again, you do not matter. And Mike Pence is just the one who said it out of all of them. You do not matter to any of these motherfuckers. Because whether or not you wake up in a cardboard box in a fucking alley somewhere tomorrow and have to stab another homeless man to death for a sandwich to survive, that doesn't matter to them, because guess what? He's going to be eating a fucking Wagyu steak with fresh veggies and potatoes and shit, right? He doesn't care. And he can sit here and project as much as he wants and try to say, "Oh, it was just an accident what I said." Nah, the real words just finally came out. Anyway, I just wanted to make this video because, you see shit like this and you see people from both sides of the political spectrum fight about it. What did he really say? What did he mean to say? What was he gonna say? It doesn't matter. He said what he said and he meant it. And I get it, he's got to backtrack now that all the flack has come his way. But this is really what these politicians think of you. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubTheOptimus. Once again, that's just muscle memory. I forgot about that. My fault, guys. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below as well. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, not concerned about Americans, and signing out.